All right, and we're back. Today we're going to talk about comedy and why it sucks in the modern age. So I have 2 points for this video. Point number one is that comedians today have done no homework and lack talent of any kind. So let's start with the doing homework. So you would often see like modern day comedians like Joe Rogan, Andrew Schultz, and the rest of that Rogan Spear type of comedian, and they reference a lot of these old school comedians, Richard Pryor, George Carlin. Those are names I keep hearing. Like I've been hearing these names since I was a teenager, really. And one day I decided to actually watch these legends of comedy, and they were in fact very good. Okay, like objectively, everything is subjective, but in my opinion, very good, and I can see why they're hailed as legends of comedy. Now, comedians today want to have that shock and awe factor that, Richard and George had, but it's almost like they've done no homework into who these people were and like the type of material that they put out. So I call it the spark notification of comedy. So it feels like a bunch of comedians, they spark noted the comedians that came before them, and they said, oh, they would shock people, and they were edgy, and they were disruptive, but they didn't actually read what they were talking about. Richard Pryor was born to a prostitute and grew up in a brothel that his grandmother owned. His dad was a pimp. He talked about this. He talked about the living through the crack epidemic going on in the 80s, and was vehemently against a lot of what the government was doing in his community and outside. Okay? He was outspoken. That's why he was controversial. George Carlin spoke against religion back then. Speaking about religion now is like, nothing's gonna happen. Like, it's pretty acceptable. Like, people have debates on Christianity and atheism, but he would speak out against the government and how the government is trying to control you, how you don't really have freedom.
You and I are about the same age, right? We're in our mid-30s. How long is it going to take before guys who think like you, and I say guys who think like me, people who don't want to have racism in the country, people who don't want to be oppressing any minority, whatever it is, sexual, whatever minority, really get into positions of power and can change things?
You can't get in a position of power, it seems, if you think like that. It seems that the only time you get in a position of power is if you're like the people that are in power. To me, I mean, that's the way it goes. I mean, people that get to become executives become like the people that were already executives.
I don't know, maybe...
They go in with good intentions, but it eats them up. It's like a cesspool.
I hate people who have a group of people with a common purpose. Because pretty soon they have little hats, and armbands, and fight songs, and a list of people they're going to visit at 3 a.m.
We're in a pre-fascist state, and I said when fascism comes to America, it will not be wearing jackboots and brown shirts, and it will be wearing Nike sneakers, and it will have smiley face buttons on the Hard Rock
and carrying
t-shirt.
a flag.
Yeah, of course.
And a Bible.
Always that.
The point I'm trying to make is they were talking about actual stuff. Okay, so they weren't just controversial for being controversial. They were tackling real issues. If they were alive today, they'd be talking about the genocide in Palestine, in Sudan, in the Congo. They would be talking about, these actual issues that would make people uncomfortable. Modern day comedians, to me, look like they just read that, oh, these guys are controversial. I'll be controversial. And here they come, trans people. Bruh, sit the down. What? Do you guys understand? Like, they know, like, oh, older comedians, like, they were popular because they were controversial. They were going against power systems, like, and you guys kiss ass the power system. George Carlin was talking against the government. You're trying to be friends with the government. Just spineless, very spineless people. Anyways, I don't want to stick too much on that. My second point today is They rely too much on the fake boogeyman. See, when you're untalented and you haven't really done your homework and you're trying to recreate what you think a comedian from back in the day was doing, you have to have a boogeyman. Okay? Talking about the crack epidemic, talking about controversial stuff like the economic conditions that would lead your parents to have to do what they have to do to survive would be very unpopular at the time, especially at the time where our government is trying to pretend like they're perfect, where America was trying to pretend like they're perfect. These are very unpopular at the time. These new comedians don't really have problems to talk about, so they have to make it up. And the enemy they've chosen, the boogeyman they've chosen, is woke. What does that mean? We don't know anymore. Like, when they use it, I know what woke means as a black man. What they're fighting against, we don't even know. They're just fighting against fake boogeyman. And that's why when comedians talk about being canceled, you look at them and you're like, this is not real. Like, you know that disgust you feel where you're like, what are you talking about, bruv? The woke agenda is like, bruv, you're just bad. Okay, they're trying to make themselves look brave by talking shit about trans people. People most likely to be murdered out of everyone. You're not brave, bruv. You see what I mean? They've spark noted the past, so they know that these comedians were controversial. They did not read actually that, oh my gosh, he was very outspoken about like the corrupt government. Oh my god, he actually talked about the crack epidemic and was like blaming the government for this. Oh my gosh, he was going hard against religion. They just know he's controversial. They are out here pretending like saying slurs is brave. They create fake realities in their heads. They're not even comedians anymore. They're just actors. As someone who's been black my whole life, there's never been a moment where I thought non-black people were going out of their way not to say slurs. It's something you hear in school, in universities, sometimes at work, every day on social media. But they'll pretend like, the walls are closing in. You can't say anything anymore. You can't say it. And it's just the N-word. That's literally what it is. Yeah, comedy sucks at the moment because our modern day comedians are they're just not smart, you know, and I think that's what's missing. Some people underestimate comedians, but now it's warranted. But to actually be funny, you have to be smart. You have to be well read. You have to have good grasp of social and economic issues to be able to joke about it the right way. These guys aren't. They're glorified edgelords. They're like kids from high school who never grew up. Do you know, like in high school, there's always that kid who just says the F word a bunch of times and thinks he's like breaking barriers or something, and everybody's just looking at him and be like, "Bro, you're just vulgar. Nobody wants to be around you." That's how they are. Yeah, these are tough times, guys. But anyways, this is my take on why comedy sucks. I really want to hear your reasons in the comments. And I'll see you guys in the next video.